people that don't give a shit about the river.
Yeah.
They don't. They really don't care about it. It's not our generation. We respect the river, right? You got a lot of these young crowds that are living in flats, living in apartments, right? Bag of rubbish, what am I going to do with that here? Throw it in there.
Regardless of generation, it is important to take care of public space. Just ask young Ronald Reagan.
The litter problem seems to get worse. Sadly and ironically, because of scientific advances and new improvements in modern living, we cannot leave to the generations who will follow us an empty and wasted land. America belongs to them, too. It's not ours to waste.
But today, an environmentalist world is anxiety-ridden.
The PCBs that are still in the river that cause cancer.
Too many nutrients and too much sediment. So you don't have enough oxygen for fish and for crabs to breathe.
The crash in animal populations.
The massive amounts of pesticide pollution in the rivers.
Acidification of the oceans.
Island of plastic in the Pacific.
Climate change, there's even more uncertainty.
The carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, more carbon dioxide going up, more of a greenhouse effect.
Apocalypse.
There's been this weird dissonance where it's like, okay, apocalypse, the world is ending, and do this tiny little thing, put less water in your kettle, you know. If you do that, people actually start thinking you're lying, because it doesn't add up.
Through both documentaries and fiction films, Hollywood has helped to create a narrative of inevitable environmental doom.
People all over the world, we need to solve the climate crisis. We have everything we need to get started. With the possible exception of the will to act, that's a renewable resource. Let's renew it.
Reduce, reuse, recycle. This is the mantra we always hear from environmentalists. But how many of us think about this in our day-to-day lives? Needless overconsumption. We've all heard some version of the statistics. Americans generate over 250 million tons of trash per year. That's almost 1 ton per person. Currently, only 35% of the waste generated is recycled. But the EPA estimates that 70% of this waste could be reused or recycled. So by my math, we could be recycling twice as much as we actually are. AKA, there's serious room for improvement.
We're going over the spot. I'm not kidding. You need to move right now.
My name is Carly, that's me, transporting the bike wagon full of trash, refusing to stop, trudging ahead like I'm on a mission, because I am. I'm a student at the College of William & Mary.
College.
Last summer, I, along with a group of other students, did a study abroad program through the National University of Ireland in Galway. Galway, Ireland, and Williamsburg, Virginia. Both arts towns with seemingly pristine public spaces. 2 towns, like so many others, where the detritus of the modern world leaves its mark.
We have all this waste that does go into garbage cans, and it does go into the landfill. But in this case, you also have some of that spilling over into our public spaces, right? Our environmental problems are very much an issue of overconsumption. It's just a spillover of all the things that we have, you know? We just have so much, it's just kind of going everywhere, and it's kind of seeping out of the edges.
The guy on the left side of the screen is Tim Barnard, one of my professors and the head of the study abroad program in Ireland. Here, he is talking to a local environmental educator.
Recover this trash, rather than just toss it in a landfill, can it become the raw materials for found object artworks?
Certainly. Professor Barnard had traveled to Galway the summer before, and he was struck by its beauty, as well as the amount of trash he could see in its waterways, especially in the Eglinton Canal, which runs through the heart of the town. That contradiction of trash and beauty stuck in his head and eventually developed into an idea.
So Pratyush Dubé, man, tell me, are you psyched? How excited are you?
He teamed up with his trusted collaborator, Pratyush Dubé, and together they came up with an ambitious checklist. Step 1, go to Galway. Step 2, organize local partners to help take trash out of the canal. Step 3, collaborate with found object artists to make something with that trash. Step 4, hopefully install the found object art alongside the canal to raise awareness. All of this in 4 weeks.
So this is some kind of a fringe group that has nothing to do with the trash cleanup. You guys are like, peripheral to literally planet Earth here, right? Am I correct?
Oh, and I almost forgot. We had to make a documentary about the entire endeavor. We ran into an environmentalist who had done a small-scale version of our project right here in Williamsburg.
The theme was it had to be generally a creature or, an animal of
that they're going to make.
That they were going to make.
Okay.
To create from the materials and trash that they found. Elementary school kids, they have more feeling almost towards the environment as far as like a true appreciation before, you get older and it doesn't come as important.
Pick up trash to help the world.
They can appreciate that it's not good to throw trash into a public place where everybody should be enjoying it and using it.
I like to think of it as almost like a gateway for a lot of people. The first thing you notice isn't necessarily the nitrogen and the phosphorus, because we don't really see nitrogen and phosphorus in the water. You see the trash, and some people make the broken windows analogy. If it's already polluted and broken, why should we care about cleaning it up? And so I think a lot of times the first step towards cleaning up a river is cleaning up the trash.
Before we actually left for Galway, we participated in local cleanups right here in the Burg. One cleanup took place at College Creek, out past the end of New Hope Road. In just one morning, a few dozen volunteers removed 2 tons of trash from College Creek.
Everything that falls on the land ultimately makes it into our creeks and our streams. So what you're doing here today, helping to clean up all the trash that's on the land, you're stopping it from getting in the bay. Everything flows downhill, right? And so the stream just becomes a natural collection spot for pretty much every bit of trash that that's on the land.
If you wanted to work with shopping carts, we've got at least 8 up there already, and as you can see, these people have been working on this here for at least 45 minutes.
I think we pulled out over a dozen shopping carts, and one of the residents came down and said, "Oh, you're taking my bridge away." Behind every environmental problem, there's usually a social justice issue. The problem is there used to be a bridge here, but there's not anymore, and so the residents of the subsidized housing behind us will put shopping carts in the creek to create a shortcut and a makeshift bridge to get from here over to Trayburn Avenue. Every time it rains, the shopping carts get pushed down the stream when it floods, and then they'll put a few more there.
So we're standing in a creek that's sort of between some lower income housing, and they use these shopping carts as kind of constructing their own way to get to work, and they're shoving them into the creek to use as a footbridge. So I'm taking a look at how we could build a much more sustainable footbridge, which would prevent trash and damage to the creek in the area.
This is an interesting piece of trash right here. My guess is it's from a picnic table or a park bench kind of thing, but it's molded concrete, possibly from the pottery factory. Somebody could do something with that, see what I mean? And there's our Celtic symbol, the never-ending spiral. It reminds someone of a coiled snake, and snakes were thought to be magical because when they shed their skins, they renewed themselves, so it would be associated with life and birth. But it's a symbol that was taken up by the Celts, it was taken up by American Indians, it was taken up by Neolithic and Bronze Age Europeans. Probably all early cultures will come across archaeologically the spiral symbol, a symbol that would also accommodate expansion and growth.
Marcel Duchamp, at the age of 15, you were painting pictures that look very like the Impressionists.
They were.
Within a few years of that, you challenged the whole of the artistic values that then existed.
Even though found object art has existed for thousands of years, it was French artist Marcel Duchamp who popularized the movement.
You think of the fountain, or most of his early stuff was found object, and it shattered, the artist who was known then. But even more now, it's about the story, it's about the narrative, and For me, it's almost like a come around. It's like art's about telling a story, and why not use objects to tell that story? Do you know what I mean?
At their core, found object art, conceptual art, assemblage, and junk art have something in common: their material basis.
Well, for me, it's so exciting because I just think that any piece of rubbish, believe it or not, has a history. It has a whole story. It has a life, just like our life. It has who threw that rubbish away? Why is that rubbish there? What's it made out of? It's fascinating stuff. So to me, I go to skips, I go to dumps, I go to second-hand shops, I go to thrift stores. You know, I've raided bins. I love that stuff.
Conceptual art, I think it's often very important that you're aware of that object having an identity that exists outside of the function of the piece in and of itself.
It's only recently in the last number of years when recycling really, dare I say the word, became fashionable, vogue, whatever. You know, whereas I've been doing it for 30 years using found objects. My materials is God-given in the sense that it costs me nothing. And a lot of the colleges shunned the making, construction, craft, but there has to be a balance struck.
Well, we're joined now here in the studio by two artists, Brad Lockall, who's a conceptual artist, and by Charles Thompson, who is one of the founder of Stuckism. Just explain what Stuckism is, please.
Well, Stuckism is a movement that simply says the best way to do art at the moment is painting pictures.
It's definitely art.
Well, it's not undisputably art, because I'm disputing it, so it is disputable, I'm afraid. We dispute it very strongly. There's a lot of people that dispute it. In fact, I'd say most people in this country dispute it.
Found object art has always been controversial and will continue to be controversial. But despite constant criticism, its popularity has grown. In partnership with the environmental movement, artists have tried to tap into the shock factor to bring about awareness. Finally, we arrived. Located on the western coast of Ireland, Galway is home to 75,000 people, including 14,000 students at 2 universities. The vibrant arts culture and rich history attract people from around the world. At first, we found the typical tourist stuff that you'd expect. The pubs, the lush green fields, the good crack, the exploited kids playing trad music on cobblestone streets. But then we looked in the canal, and our task seemed daunting.
We only have we had 4 weeks and now it's less than 4 weeks and we haven't really done that much yet. So I am really worried that we're not going to be able to finish what we set out to accomplish. Hopefully we can, but who knows? I don't think so. Honestly, I don't.
You drank a can, you threw it in the river, you didn't give a shit about it. So how are you going to change that? You're not going to. Because it's a dumping area.
You want to take shit out of this place? You're going to have a hell of a job ahead of you. It's a long job.
Which begs the question, why was there so much trash in the canal? For answers, we needed some context. The Eglinton Canal, named after Lord Eglinton, former Lord Lieutenant of Ireland, connects National University of Ireland Galway to the city centre, so it serves as a walkway for students to get into the downtown area.
It connects the Claddagh Basin with the River Corrib, and it's a picturesque area to walk around.
Galway has been described as the Venice of Ireland, which is probably a little bit too dramatic, but there's no doubt it is very much a city which is defined by its waterways. The famine of the 1840s was devastating for Ireland, but particularly for the west of Ireland. The canal was again part of the efforts to rebuild Galway in the aftermath of the famine. It was very much about renewal and regeneration, and it needed the river to do that. It needed the power of the waterways. And it's a fascinating story to me, the fact that we have this extraordinary waterway that people still today can look into and see salmon, huge salmon, swimming their way up, and people still in the river fishing salmon.
Go out to the streets of Galway and talk to just ordinary people, your everyday Joe, to see what their opinions are about this project, to kind of learn what the role of the canal is in their lives, if they even care about the canal, you know?
The canal is a place that has been close to home.
I'd like to walk along it and look into it and look at fish. There's lots of fish. So.
I tell you boys are great men.
Aren't they?
Honest to God.
I've lived here in the canal for the last 3-4 years. So find the boat on the canal down by the lock gates and brought the boat the whole way up to here. And we lifted it out and dragged it down to my house. You see a canal in the middle of a town, you're going to find crap in it. You find fishermen up and down here, they're only fishing for wee tiny fish, but if you look beside them, you'll see all the things they've got. Find guys pulling out bits of rubbish just on the end of the fishing lines. Like. The canal's very dirty. Oh yeah? Eat your dinner, okay. You know, it's go back to whatever you were doing in life, you know. There's all these little fish and eels, and there's big fish and frogs and dragonflies, and there's all sorts of things, and they're here.
It tells a story. You can see maybe sometimes what's happened the night before.
Plates and cups, and it looked like someone had a domestic. I got this big story in my head. I was like, look, it's a whole dining set table. And I was like, what happened there? Now, I spoke to my partner about it, and he said that one of the houses across the road probably had a big fight, okay? Your man got all her stuff and fecked it in the river. And I was like, totally! You can make a whole piece about that. How did that whole set get in there?
If rivers could speak, huh?
The canal was chock full of unusual stuff.
A car actually ended up in the canal, down by Wards.
Poker chips. The big Galway in Irish Independent sign.
Bicycles, wheels, tyres.
Porcelain cap from a shaving cream jar, which everyone left was kind of ironic that I found it.
Garden statues.
There's a dustbin further on up.
It's usually a shopping trolley, I suppose.
A Nokia phone.
Something that usually women might keep in their top drawer.
There's a large black rubber dildo on the other side of that bridge.
Professor Barnard wasn't the first one to notice the trash, as there had been pre-existing efforts to clean the canal.
I have to say that Galway as a city is famous for its volunteerism. People who use the waterways contribute on a yearly basis to cleaning the areas that they use. And that's giving back. And it's looking after the environment in which they engage with their sport.
I've been diving 15 years now, in around 15 years. One of our members works with the City Council. Okay. So he was approached to figure out, is there anything we can do as part of the Tidy Towns initiative? Okay. And he asked us to get involved because our special skill set obviously allows us to get into the water here and get into it and safely and get down, because parts of the canal are quite deep, to clean out as much as we could. We agreed, we were happy to do it. We came in and did a day's work with the City Council. That day we had 14 divers. The particular stretch we actually cleaned was the other end of the canal downstream from here. There's only so much you can see looking in from the surface. When you get on the bottom, you see the true extent of it. It's a much bigger task than what we originally thought it was. A lot of stuff are quite heavy, and in the water they're perhaps buried in the muck and in the silt, so it's a lot of pulling and dragging as well on people.
The divers of the Sub-Aqua Club pulled out enough litter to fill up 4 garbage trucks. Litter consisting of
50 odd traffic cones, that short stretch, 2 bikes, a gate, a shopping trolley, skateboards, about 12 skateboards we counted, 2 toilet bowls, pots, pans, plates, cups, bottles, cans, a lot of knives and purses and wallets, and that again it's a popular nights time spot.
NUIG Kayak Club and Galway Kayak Club, we instigated a clean-up. Now it's done on an annual basis.
We work with the Galway County Council on the clean-up, so we notify them that we're doing a clean-up. They drop down rubbish bags, gloves, pickers, anything we need for it, and then they collect everything after. The last canal clean-up clashed with quite a few things, and I think they only had 6 people, but they still managed to pull out near 15 bags of trash. When you use something, a resource so much, in a way, you always take a slight ownership of it. It's always been in the minds of paddlers here. They spend so much time on the water throughout the year that they want to keep it in good condition. We might never get it all out, but if we take a little bit more out than was put in this year, eventually it'll keep getting better and better.
So we're delighted to support any initiative to clean up the canal, but we would need
to clean it properly, we'd need government funding. The difficulty is that there was raw sewage going into that canal. That was our energy went into stopping all that.
Okay.
We have stopped that.
Right. I've approached former directors to make sure that there are sufficient funds in the budget for cleanups, and I'm always reassured that there is. But
The first reason why the canal had so much trash.
And if it was clean, then you'd probably get less people discarding this rubbish in there.
Broken windows in dilapidated buildings that when they repaired all of the panes, left not even one pane unbroken, that people stopped smashing the windows in the buildings even though they were abandoned. If you see that someone's done it before you, then it makes it much easier to do.
Reason 2.
They should put more trash cans along the canal, so instead of throwing it into the lake, they can go, oh look, there's a bin here, I can just put it in there.
I highlighted that problem, that between the campus and the city centre, that there were no bins, and we're still awaiting.
How about more trash bins along the canal? Would that make a difference?
Yeah, look, come on, they throw them in as well.
They put them in as well.
They throw them in as well. We had submarines down here. Well, we thought there were submarines, but there weren't. There were trash bins.
Reason 3.
Come next year, they're not even going to give any welfare recipients help with disposing of rubbish. It costs something like €400 to dispose of your rubbish a year. And you know, people, what they're doing is they're dumping rubbish everywhere. Everywhere you go in Ireland, you see it. People can't afford to dump their rubbish. So it's going to get a bigger and bigger problem.
Reason 4.
The Roisin Dub is 400 metres that way, and 2,000 students are 400 metres that way. So, and the canal somewhere in between that. It's just drunk people being drunk.
They use the trolleys as taxis. They're drunk, they're coming home, and then they're dumped.
Hijinks, horseplay, late at night.
Feeling stupid or around their friends trying to be cool.
When the drink is in, the brain is out.
The clock was ticking. We had spent 2 weeks of our trip just trying to meet potential partners, but we actually hadn't done any cleaning. Getting the trash out might be likened to swimming upstream. A lot of effort with not too much progress. But then we recalled some advice given to us back in Williamsburg.
I'm an optimist on all those types of things, and I just jump in and do projects. I don't wait for all of the, ifs and buts. We just do it.
Armed with our kayaks and wetsuits, we started to clean, partnering with NUIG's Kayak Club.
Easier to get it in there.
1,
and get it out.
2, 3. Got it.
One more. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3.
That's it. Just do it.
1, 2, 3. Shit.
Right, it's not going to come from people putting up posters or the mayor saying anything. They're not going to listen to it. It's really people like you're right now doing something fantastic. You're coming all together and you're spending your Sunday afternoon cleaning it up. And I think you have to just involve more people.
Yeah, I'm pretty close, so I'm having trouble speaking, but yeah, it's all good, Probably one of the most interesting things I've done for a while. Really happy about that.
What had started the day as a student cleanup project, by the end of the day, had turned into a local neighborhood undertaking. The second cleanup was done with help from Ben, Karen, and Russell, free spirits who shared a house alongside the canal.
I seen Partush sitting in front of my boat, taking pictures of it. I inquired about it. And he said he was doing some sort of project thing for college. He said he was going to clean up the canal. Fuck it, yeah. I'll give you a hand. If you want to borrow the boat or use the boat, I'll give it, by all means, work away. So we met up on Sunday. We took the boat out. We got a few people in the water and we pulled up all the traffic cones and all the road signs and pots and pans and little statues and abalone shells and pearl mussel shells and what else? Shopping trolleys. The Tim partition, the wetsuit in the water. Turn around to Russell. Russell, what? Get into the water. T-shirt off, splash. Skirt crack. His man, yeah, no, he had fun. He was like a walrus. Yeah, him and his big ass beard. Yeah. He's Australian, he'll be fine.
This guy there.
Yeah. Zebra mussels.
The zebra mussel, invasive species, and it's been a lot of fishermen are against it because it just takes over the bottom of their boats and anchors and stuff.
Every piece of trash we pulled out was covered with zebra mussels, an invasive species. Litter contributes to the spread of zebra mussels as they thrive off the trash in the canal.
Huge. I mean, you can see this here. And what they do is they take all the clean oxygen out of the water.
Zebra mussels pose a serious threat to Ireland's rivers and lakes because they cause toxic algal blooms and food shortages for fish, destroying the careful balance of the ecosystem. By the end of the day, with the help of Ben, Karen, and Russell, and the kayak club, we unloaded boatloads of trash. And I mean boatloads.
Barnard's asking people, what kind of potential are you seeing here? Gotta be honest, I don't see any because I don't understand. My mind does not work that way. To make art out of trash.
Our cleanup mission had succeeded, twofold. But we had a new problem. We had removed a lot of trash. But we had removed a lot of trash. We still had to get it transformed into art, made by school kids and professional artists. And our time was running out. Soon, we would have to leave. Daunting? Hell no. By this point, we were moving. We were gaining in numbers, and damn did we have inertia. In the visual language of Hollywood, we were power walking. Ultimately, though, we realized that while slow-mo might look cool, we had to speed things up. First thing, we contacted a local elementary school. Galwegian youngins might be inspired to use this trash in art class.
I think you might be an alien. A unicorn.
A bunny. I made a cat.
Foxman. I'm trying to make a jersey out of the bottle.
Queen, king.
So my friends, Oren and Aaron, made a trash king and queen. They hoard all the trash and keep it in the land, and everybody's getting all polluted and stuff. And these are the rebels that want to recycle it.
You see one of these children, if they see another child throw something in, where they can stop them and say, look, don't do that, that's our canal.
And you didn't take out the big sign, Irish Independent.
We took that out.
Is that gone, is it?
One of the most eye-catching objects in the canal was an 8-foot-long sign advertising the Irish Independent newspaper. The sign had been in the middle of the canal for at least 2 years. As we later found out, we weren't the only ones with an interest in retrieving that sign.
I kept looking into the canal and just going,
that's a fucking dirty canal.
It's a fucking dirty canal. And we kept counting traffic cones and bikes and trolleys and fucking
teacups.
Then out of nowhere we just kind of saw this obnoxiously big sign.
Irish Independent, 7-footer, maybe 8.
If the sign said anything other than Irish Independent, I don't think we'd have had the interest in it at all. There's some untouchable novelty about the fact that it's the Irish Independent. We wanted to take it around town and take photos with it And there's this really famous image of 4 sailors, 4 fishermen in Connemara with a curragh, you know, the old Irish boats. There's this famous picture kind of like this, and the boat's over them and they're all holding it. So we also wanted to take a parody of that, holding the Irish independence. I think we're just a little bored.
I mean, hey, sometimes you just get inspired.
Yeah. So we kayaked down to where we thought the sign was, where it was.
It was.
And we got there and we were like, oh,
yeah,
we can't see it. This is weird. We're like, maybe the reeds like went over it or whatever, and Dave was stabbing and we're like, it was right there, and he was stabbing, he couldn't find it. And then fucking Pertouche shows up.
Yeah, and is like, are you guys looking for a sign? And
we were like, what fucking sign? What sign are you talking about?
Is it this sign, Irish Independent? Like, yes. All right, someone got in this morning and took it out.
My professor, in fact.
I don't know the man. I've never met the man. I can barely remember his name at times, or how to say his name.
Is it Barnard?
We were very fucking frustrated. So frustrated that we were like, well, we're not getting something.
Yeah.
So we dove down and got an old rotten sold sign, which was not 7 feet long and culturally relevant, and got an old
Xbox.
Yeah.
Inspired by the 3 disgruntled IT workers in Office Space, they decided to channel their frustration into something creative and also cathartic.
So now we're gonna beat the hell out of this Xbox.
The resurrection is the group harder than an erection that shows no affection. They want to ban us on Capitol Hill, cause it's die, motherfuckers.
Stop me, come on.
Die, motherfuckers, die, motherfuckers.
All along it was the ghetto, nothing but the ghetto. Taking short steps, 1 foot at a time, and kept my head low and never let go. Cause if I let go, then I'd be spineless. I'm going insane.
I think my mind just goes out of control and touch on subjects motherfuckers read about. I touch on the shit that they be leaving out. I seen this motherfuckers non-smoking. I seen this, I bet you motherfuckers will too. Because it's time, motherfucker, die, motherfucker, still.
Fucking Yanks, coming over, cleaning our rivers, taking our signs. Take the women.
Take the women.
Leave the signs.
Also, I'm excited to talk to Noel Malloy because we've been emailing and he seems really nice. First I was kind of scared because he was like, you guys took a while to get back to me. I was like, oh, sorry. He's a found object artist. He like takes a lot of junk and just like makes something of it. Did you say his son made a little film about him?
Yeah.
There's an interesting one in the city of Bethlehem by an Irish artist who makes art out of things you wouldn't think of.
This is my dad, Noel Malloy, performance artist and sculptor. Over my life I have loved witnessing, being involved and influenced by my dad's work.
The performance work I created called A Snail related to home and place, homelessness and displacement. The symbols I used, the spiral and the circle, has been used in drawings by ancient tribes, etc., relating to place denoting and marking where somebody lives.
Because the world is so fucked up, is unbelievable. Performance enables me to deal with certain issues.
His home is his studio. He invited us to his studio to interview him. So I think that'll be really cool to just be immersed in found object art.
To get to his studio, we needed to drive to Roscommon, a small town in rural Ireland.
Are you kidding me? No. Can this be part of the reality segment where I'm just like, get the fuck out of my face?
We could have made an entire documentary about his art studio.
It was a commission for a disabled boy. This part is a wheelchair.
Yeah.
This is a keg, beer keg, dustbin lids. There was always that attitude there of nothing being wasted, that everything could be used. If it wasn't, it could be reused for something else. If I can't find that object here, I'll go and search for the object. Beg, steal, or borrow. Don't ever invite me to your house. You won't have a fork or a spoon yet. It's like in the throwaway society that we live in. It's too easy for people to discard things because of the mass production, and it's like a vicious circle. You're throwing away something that works. Why? Because you want to get the latest model. Why? Because the color is different? Because there's an extra button on it. Why? And you're fueling this economy, fueling situations where people are exploited, working for meager wages. I know the way I work, I'm actually destroying the object. It's utilizing a shape, an object, and fitting it into how I think. Yeah, where's the bag of junk that you got?
Oh, there's a bag of junk.
Yeah, if you bring in the bag of junk. Hubcap, bicycle.
Something, I don't know what that is.
It's like a foot. Oh, it's like, could be from, it's cast iron anyways. Your usual gunk. I tell you what, I'm going to set me a challenge. I'm keeping this.
Okay.
And I'm going to make a work out of it, and I'll post you an email.
Okay.
I'll post you photographs when it's done.
The Book of Eglinton cover. Sorted out the stuff and it did smell a bit and it was pretty dirty, so I treated it by putting it in the backyard of my studio and allowing the organic stuff to decay from it, and then gave it a preliminary cleaning. In the bag of stuff that the guys brought from the canal, there was a hubcap, which you can see here, which is plastic hubcap from a car, the rim of a bicycle, an old paint can, cast iron piece of metal, whatever it's from, I don't know, the rubber from the wheel of a child's bicycle, the shells that were stuck to all of the various objects were used to represent the beard, and the actual locks of the chains I use as the eyes. Most objects that are found are given a name from the place they're found in, like the Book of Kells or the Ardagh Chalice. I decided I would figure out this sort of story. The Book of Eglinton cover was lost, maybe during a Viking raid or something like that. A monk dropped it in the river when he was running from the Vikings. An archaeology search in the river, and they discovered these bits and pieces because obviously over the years the book cover would have disintegrated. Inspiration as well was ecclesiastical, so the cover could have been that of a precious manuscript, like say the Book of Kells, where they used imagery to portray saints. So in a sense you could call him Saint Eglinton.
Currently showing work in the 126 Gallery, which is behind me here, which is one of the only artist-led gallery in Galway.
We first met Gianna as she was showing her work at a progressive gallery in Galway city centre.
Like the piece today in 126 Gallery is about the trace of people who have died from trauma. We see all these people and they try to materialise a life through things, teddy bears, scarves, clothes. And I thought that's not how I materialise life. I see it as a mist almost. Someone who's lost to me is like a mist. I can't see a teddy bear, I can't see a scarf. So it all started from roadside shrines in America, is where that piece started.
After learning about her current work, She provided insight on our project and the challenges of public art.
I mean, you've got an entire garbage disposal company on strike in Dublin. You've got workers that are being paid less than the minimum wage. It isn't working. There's something wrong. So I don't know. I mean, if you're making beautiful art out of rubbish, okay, would I make those kind of statements in my local community? I probably would. If it's going to be in their community, you have to have a bit of thought about them.
You have to deal with weathering, you have to deal with vandals, you have to deal with the local community, the people that live in the apartments around that area.
You really have to make it something that's worth looking at, or that they feel it's worth looking at, without some sort of pseudo-art education.
Anybody that's making work publicly has to really consider their materials and has to consider the politics. You know, I find this stuff, and to most people they'd be like, why do you want that? What are you doing with that? But its potential is there.
Later, as she looked through the accumulation of trash we had collected, we hoped she would see potential. We also hoped her passion and talent would lead her to accept our challenge.
I mean, we're constantly encouraged to find trash and to make something out of it. That's part of sculpture.
This kind of thing here, I mean, it might be a stretch of the imagination, but if you imagine this in a white cube gallery on the wall.
Materials are very expensive in art, and that's a real problem for some of the, especially the younger students. So, I mean, they're constantly looking for ways to make something out of nothing financially. And the best way to do that is to reuse, recycle, to look at something not for its intrinsic value, but to look at it for its material, to look at it for its form, for its colour, and work out what you can do with that to subvert it into something else.
Even this kind of thing here, the deterioration there, I mean, these kind of things are really interesting textures and interesting colours.
Artists problem solve. Everything in here started off with a question, and then eventually it comes to an answer. Now, sometimes the answer works well, sometimes it doesn't, but that's art.
And about that smell?
Yeah, I'm kind of adjusting to it, but not really.
Bye, thank you, Jenna.
The items that you're pulling out from the river, you can't foresee what they're going to be. So the developmental element of the artwork in response to those items is really open to anything. I work conceptually, so I sometimes don't actually work with the objects themselves, but I work with the ideas that these objects may project or present to me. The title I have given the work is We Are Multitude. The multitude really is a term used for those who cannot be defined. And this film project has multiple layers, including social cohesion, artistic expression, community participation, and environmental awareness. It deals with so many of the global issues we're faced with today. How to better work together even from great distance and address some of the many issues we share, from large issues such as global warming and waste to smaller but no less important issues of simply being part of a community who wish for the betterment of our human experience. We Are Multitude addresses these through the development of artworks. Perhaps works which escape a succinct definition but whose existence is due to this inquiry into the debris within an ecosystem in Galway city. At the end of the day, I think if we all become part of this multitude of small positive interventions in our own communities, I have no doubt that we can at least attempt to provide a better future for ourselves and for our planet.
Our trip to Ireland had been a whirlwind, and the return home was bittersweet. We had learned and experienced more than we could have imagined. And yet, remember that mission I was on? It wasn't over, and in many ways, it was just beginning. We started a conversation with local environmentalists, politicians, artists, and social activists by jumping straight in. And we wanted to bring that mentality back to the States. Last spring, before ever leaving for Ireland, a spiral design on a chunk of cement found in College Creek had foreshadowed our trip to come. Now that we were back, Noel Malloy, from his farmhouse studio in County Roscommon, planted the seed of our project's new growth. Noel had told us about recycled artworks he had made for a special exhibit opening at the Museum of Shenandoah Valley in Winchester, Virginia. Noel, along with other artists from around the world, had been invited to turn discarded hubcaps into art. We had our heading, and the exhibit's title gave us new inspiration. From Williamsburg to Galway and back again, we had come full circle. Now joined by a new group of students, the wheels of our project were still turning.
We tried to channel Gianna's electric charisma. We wanted to tie in the multitude, an intersection of education and art with environmental awareness at the core.
Putting our own spin on the second time around Hubcap project, we launched a community found object art competition called Keep the Wheels Turning. We distributed old bike and car tires on campus and at a local monthly arts fair. We challenged participants, both young and old, to transform their tires into art. As an incentive, we offered prizes and charitable donations to environmental causes. Before those old wheels and tires became the raw materials for that project, we came up with another creative spin on how to give them new life, casting them in starring roles in short film productions. We teamed up with the William & Mary Global Film Festival and its fall workshops for aspiring local filmmakers. Do it young, film it yourself. Each team of K-12 filmmakers was required to integrate the tires into the short films that they were making. Recycling, renewal, regeneration, return. Learning in youth is the pretty learning. This Gaelic proverb rings true to how we felt while working with the kids at the summer camp in Galway. We turned to local silversmith and art teacher at Matthew Whaley Elementary School, Robert Opperker. The students of his after-school art club worked together on transforming 3 of our old tires into an artistic recycling bin for the school. Right now, the waters of the Eglinton Canal are still flowing over a field of debris. We still need to get public art installed alongside of it. Our planet is still in the midst of an environmental crisis. Our projects weren't grandiose or revolutionary, but they were something. And again, human connection surfaced as the driving force behind it all. So here I am, taking on the turns of the spiral, ready to move forward. Biseach.
A smiling face, welcome embrace, many miles away from home, are all you need to see that we are just one people. Awaken us a desire to maintain its serenity. Join hands with friends and make a change. Restore, revive, and renew our faith in humanity, our faith in humanity. Join hands and try to make a change. Restore, revive, and renew.